It's time for another edition of Eyes on AFL. We have another set of football takes, questions and opinions about the past and present of the competition. The first is from Mystical Bin Chicken 3261, who through the journey of the current Brisbane Lions' success, albeit with no flag, asked what side was the best to not win a premiership. The one that would stand out the most in the 2000s would have to be the 2009 and 2010 Saints, which is mentioned in the comment. In the two combined seasons, the home and away record was 35 wins, 1 draw and just 8 losses. 2009 specifically was one of the most dominant home and away seasons ever. 20 wins and 2 losses in rounds 20 and 21 by a combined margin of just 7 points. Who can forget the famous round 14 match at the then called Etihad Stadium against the other undefeated team in Geelong? It is still a record crowd for the venue and is an iconic match of the decade. It's too bad the Geelong side they played in the grand final was equally as gifted, and a Matthew Scarlett toe poke may have been the deciding factor. In 2010, they followed up with another great home and away season and narrowly beat Geelong and then the Western Bulldogs to get to the grand final. The Stephen Milne bounce is probably etched in St Kilda fans' eyes, and like the Scarlet poke, it just didn't bounce their way. They were beat up after the come-from-behind draw, and a smother by Heath Shaw on Nick Riewoldt was the beginning of the end. Altogether, the 2-season span had St Kilda lead the league in back-to-back years for points against, while boasting a forward line of Nick Riewoldt, Justin Koschitzke and Stephen Milne. Add in a centre line that could feature any one of Brendan Goddard, Nick Dalsano, Lee Montagna and Norm Smith medalist Lenny Hayes. It creates a well-balanced team, and it's a shame that fate just didn't go their way. The political loser believes anyone who says the reigning premiers will go back-to-back are just lazy, pointing out the fates of the last few winners. They are also sceptical of Collingwood going back to the grand final and winning it, although still believe they will go deep in September. The last 3 years does follow the trend of no back-to-backs, but if someone has good reasons or thoughts, then picking Collingwood again in 2024 isn't crazy. Overall, they still have a strong squad and their key players are a good mix between youth and experience. So what are the factors that could lead to a drop-off, even if that still means getting to a preliminary final as predicted here? The first point is other teams do get better. For example, what if the Giants improve another step up under Adam Kingsley and they just become more powerful and skilled than Collingwood? The same could be applied with any other team. The pre-season itself is difficult to navigate after a premiership. You play much longer than the majority of other teams and it leaves limited time for surgeries and overall player health. We have already seen Braden Maynard undergo shoulder surgery and he won't be back until February. Dan McStay suffered an ACL injury at training, already ruling him out for the 2024 season, while Jamie Elliott, Darcy Moore, Nick Dacos and other veterans won't be back in full training until January, which is only a couple months from the start of the season. And what about the magic of Craig McRae? Will his new energy become stale in the environment? The question about how hungry a group is to repeat will be in focus early. To someone back up the concentration and motivation needed is extremely challenging, and it only takes 20 to 30% to not be fully invested for a team to fall off. And what if the football gods go against them and they lose 3 or 4 close ones that they won in the previous 2 seasons? Collingwood are right in the mix to challenge again, but we'll have to buck a little bit of a trend in the past few seasons. North Melbourne Football Club Fan 7 questions if Geelong will finally bottom out. I think the answer has to be yes. It was a frustrating 2023. They looked pretty good at times, but it was noted throughout the year their team defence fell way off. It was partly due to inconsistency in that part of the ground and a substantial list of injuries. The big issue with the Cats list is their demographic. It's ultra top heavy and those players are now veterans. Tom Hawkins, Patrick Dangerfield, Mitch Duncan, Zach Toohey, Jeremy Cameron and Tom Stewart will all be 32 or older next year. No doubt they are still capable to play well, but the future beyond this point has to be a worry. The players mentioned are in the best 10 at the club. If they get hurt or do heavily drop off, the list of under 25s is not good. Max Holmes is the best, with Ollie Henry and Tanner Bruin behind him. Sam De Koning, Brian Myers and Tyson Stengel are currently 25, but can they lift the team and become the main guys? You can never write off Geelong, and next year as a fully healthy team, they are still more than capable of becoming a threat. But could there be a tipping point like we saw at West Coast? Maybe the Cats take a phased approach. It may keep them competitive each year while slowly fading out older players. For example, Hawkins, Tui and Duncan retire next year and are followed by Dangerfield, Stanley and Blitzarves. It keeps spots for young blood coming in while maintaining some experience to guide the way. Geelong is bottoming out because they have no choice. It doesn't mean they will be bad, but a new breed of Cats will be on their way to replace former Warriors in Selwood, Dangerfield, Hawkins and Duncan. This is a bit of a long one from Horizon of Hope. Essentially, Geelong and Richmond's dynasties are better than Hawthorn and Brisbane's. The first two built their list fairly and organically with no external factors, while the introduction of GWS and Gold Coast helped the Hawks, and the Brisbane Lions got to pick players from Fitzroy when they merged. Starting with the Lions dynasty, the Fitzroy merger didn't only give them one premiership player, they were able to select 8 to make the move up north. Majority of them barely played, with Jared Malloy featuring 61 times and Scott Bamford just 24. They did get Chris Johnson, who was on his way to become a dual All-Australian and one of the players to be in all 3 premiership teams. But that's it. Only one of the players was really valuable. They did move off some of the players to acquire draft capital, and John Barker was in the Brad Scott trade as well. But majority of the team was already at the then called Bears, and others in Luke Power, Jonathan Brown and Simon Black were drafted. The Hawthorn three-peat was phenomenal, but there is some merit here. Between 2009 and 2013, the drafts were heavily altered. The introduction of Gold Coast and then GWS did affect the selection ability of all clubs, especially those at the bottom of the ladder. There was a huge amount of quality players taken in the pre-draft, zone selections, and first, second and third picks in the national draft, which were all handed out to start the clubs off. In theory, it narrows the amount of talent for the other clubs to pick while pushing them further back in the draft order. Hawthorn were shrewd enough to pick up a couple key players in this time period like Isaac Smith, Paul Puopolo and Ben Stratton, but the rest of their additions were made through trade. The core of their team was already set up and they didn't have to rely on draft selections. Hawthorn did have the best side in this period of time, and it is possible the compromised drafts aided them in making it harder for the teams at the bottom to collect talent to rise up. Saying that, they still had to battle through great teams in Sydney, Fremantle and Geelong in their 3-year run. When we compare this with the Cats and Tigers dynasty, there is a case that the latter had more impressive runs. In a quick summary, the Richmond side's 2020 flag was during COVID when the clubs had to move to Queensland. The Sydney Stack and Callum Coleman-Jones incident was also a massive distraction, and losing the first final was all hard to overcome. It showed their mental resilience and toughness to win it all, while the squad they made was organically created and was topped up by trading in for Dion Prestia and signing Tom Lynch through free agency. The Cats got a little more help, getting Gary Ablett Jr. and Tom Hawkins using the father-son rule, but their team really was built on drafting. It just took a while to come together. All the big names were developed, and what makes their run between 07 and 11 look better is the quality of sides they were against. St Kilda, Collingwood and Hawthorn all had terrific sides during this period of time. So if you look at it from a league and external point of view, Richmond and Geelong's period of domination may have been more challenging. But did Brisbane gain a big advantage getting 8 players from Fitzroy? Not really. Only one turned out to be good, so I think the Lions is in a similar difficulty level to the Cats and Tigers. Hawthorn probably benefited with the Suns and GWS coming in, and it was perfect timing to have an all-time great team. There was another edition of Eyes on AFL. If you have any more takes or opinions, feel free to leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.